this email very often. I got my work email, my business email, my personal email,
Ice cream or sweet?
the village emails, and
Stick them in this little,
Land water education, going to conference, and put down the contact.
I stick them in this little
There's so many emails that don't even have anything.
notebook here, so I always have.
So then you gotta read through that.
You betcha.
yeah, with that work, usually have a
It doesn't have enough buttons that are going up there to do that.
Got a little variety.
I have it set up to automatically go into paper
I
folder.
like teal. We're arguing over whether to have teal or dark green, jailbreak marathon.
Three right here from this Elliot Meyer.
Did you see his medal? Did he
statewide
show you his
conference,
medal?
and people
Yes.
around the world, it's like, don't care, you know, but a lot of these are just, you know, this is land water education conference, it's come and gone.
Bingo.
It's from Kewanee County,
Keep getting them.
got on the mailing list, my
They
mistake.
are pretty great.
Aren't they awesome? I
They
bet Mary was
almost make me want to run a half
jailbreak
marathon.
marathon.
They said, let there be lights, and there were lights.
Okay, thank you.
That's for that half
You ha-
marathon and marathon, that's the new,
Now pass it around to the board.
get for finishing.
Encourage them to participate.
I know that's gonna encourage everyone to do a marathon, right?
I think most of us could drive a marathon.
Yeah.
6 miles, I could probably knock that off in half an hour.
Well, you and Buddy could do a half marathon. You walk a lot. Is it 7 o'clock?
I've got 7 o'clock, yep.
Marathon.
All right, it's 7 o'clock and I'm gonna call this meeting to order. Megan will do roll call.
Mr. Bonfiglio is excused. Mr. Piaski.
Here.
Mr. Tim.
Here.
Mr. Cap.
Here.
Mr. Eckstein.
Here.
Mr. Weddy.
Here.
Mrs. Colada.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Peterman.
Here.
Mr. Lauer.
Here.
Mr. Kirschner.
Here.
All right, thank you. Now we'll stand for silent prayer and pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I will entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I so move.
Motion by Weddy, second by Eckstein. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approval of the minutes of the February 19th, 2019 monthly meeting. Motion by Cap, second by Peterman to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have no one to sign in for public comments, and we have no unfinished business, so we'll go right on to the new business. Reports and presentation. We'll start with County Administrator, Mr. Civic.
Thank you. Members of the board, Madam Chair, members of the public, good evening. I'll just try not to ramble too much. I just want to give you an update since we last met about a month ago. The process of looking at the courthouse campus renovations has begun. Both the building and grounds superintendent, Mr. Burkhardt, and I have met with some officials from Cotter Consulting of Milwaukee. They are putting together a bare outline proposal. It's not ready for action yet, but I just want you to know we are progressing with that as well. The other thing I wanted to discuss is the employee wellness program is taking shape. Our latest offering will be yoga classes in the demonstration room, not only for employees but members of the public. As part of that, we also want to offer employees educational opportunities to make them more well-rounded. And this is also for members of the public. On March 26th, we have a Lunch and Learn series on recycling and upcycling your property. We have a lot of things in the landfill, so that addresses some of that. The week of April 1st is Money Smart Week, sponsored by UW Extension. There's a variety of programs every day. There should be some flyers floating around. That is also for employees and the public. On April 6th is the Blue Ribbon Kids Day at Parkside School here in Watoma. Lots of activities for children. And also, this is important as well, April 13th, the Public Health Department is sponsoring a free, that's a Saturday, a free skin cancer screening clinic over at their offices. They have, I was there last year, they have a physician from Fond du Lac who comes up there to provide free skin cancer screenings. That's something that's always good to check because most people don't address it until perhaps it's too late. The other thing we're working on is intergovernmental relations, moving from the local to the national. Last Monday, the county clerk and the interim human services director and I visited the Dakota Town Board meeting. We are progressing with that. I will go ahead and give everybody information as the next time we do that. I will tell you, I'm not on a hard and fast schedule. I just do it as I can squeeze those meetings in, but obviously everybody, the board and the directors will get notice of that so they can attend if they want to as well. Come June, we'll begin our as like last year, our tour of the county, attending in board meeting town halls and things like that throughout the county. We'll do that June, July, and August. Also coming up will be the tour of the 8 senior dining centers. You will all get notice of that as well. I know a number of you attended those luncheons we had with the senior citizens last summer. On the state level, the county is continuing to be involved in lobbying activities. Last week I attended the WCA legislative update in Wausau. Last week I also was in Madison to meet with some legislators along with other members of the Wisconsin Counties Utility Tax Association. I touched on this in my message on Sunday night. We are looking at hopefully convincing the legislature that they need to start taking those monies that utilities pay in lieu of taxes, which were originally intended to be paid to fund local governments who provide the infrastructure the utilities rely upon, to send those back to the local government for which those payments were intended in the first place. Also on March 29th, the Clerk of Courts, Missy Zamzow, and I will be heading down to Madison. We're both members of the WCA Judicial Public Safety Steering Committee. The two big issues we have there in the justice system is an increase in the number of assistant district attorneys and an increase in judges, one of whom is slated for here in Washera County. So those are very important to us so that we maintain a well-staffed, well-funded, functioning justice system. On the federal level, this afternoon, I participated in a White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs conference call on the opioid crisis. Tomorrow is another call. This isn't something that happens every day. I guess it's just a scheduling thing there for the administration, but it will be on foreign trade. Again, I want to say that, and I'm not saying this from a partisan standpoint, from a policy standpoint, I don't necessarily agree with all the policies of the Trump administration, particularly on foreign trade, but I do appreciate their openness and their frequency of their communication that they have with local officials. They are to be commended for that. Also, on the federal level, we have a census coming up in a little more than a year, and we will be promoting census compliance or census participation by individuals at various activities that the county is involved in, such as the Blue Ribbon Kids Day or the Kids Safety Day. I want to emphasize how important it is that we receive a full count of all the residents here in Washera County. I know I've said this to you before, but it bears repeating, particularly for members of the public. Every person that's counted in the United States Census represents an annual spending on the part of the federal government of approximately $2,500. So even an undercount of 100 persons will mean probably a yearly loss of about $250,000 in federal spending here in Waushara County. So it is important that we talk about that and that we get people to voluntarily comply with the census count. On the economic development front, a few weeks ago, Supervisor Bonfiglia and I attended the new Manufacturing Alliance meeting in Appleton. He was more or less there representing his employer, Oshkosh Defense, and tonight he's in Tennessee. I don't know exactly the reason, but I suspect the reasons. One of the things that came up is that Oshkosh Defense, which provides some very good high-paying jobs to individuals, they are having operations in Tennessee because they simply do not have the skilled labor here to do that work in the Fox Cities region, which we really do need to do something about our skilled labor. And on that point, Supervisor Bonfiglia and I also attended the inaugural meeting of the Fox Valley Technical College Watoma Center Advisory Committee over there on the campus by the high school to talk about what we can do to benefit not only individuals who are looking to improve their skills here in the county and also increase their income, but our employers to get that crucial skilled labor they need to maintain their operations and hopefully expand their operations, which not only means more jobs but a more stable tax base for us come budget time. I know we have Dr. Vandy Castle here to talk about tourism, so I'm not going to steal his thunder. And I know there'll be some discussion of County Government Day, which is coming up next month as well. And as part of I'm going to go ahead and, as they say in the House of Representatives, give someone else the balance of my time. I see Mr. Diesterhoff is here. Norma, do you want to come up and talk about the flooding situation and where we've been and where we're at as far as those issues? Because I know it has been concerned in certain areas of the county. So I'll just go ahead and defer to Norman. He can give you a quick update on what we've been doing. And Mr. Frymark's here as well if he wants to go ahead and chime in on that as well, because it has affected some roads. Other than that, after these gentlemen are done, Madam Chair, I'm finished.
Okay, thank you.
Over the weekend, we had approximately a half dozen roads within the county that was shut down. In most cases, the water's receded off the roads. Our one big concern area that we always end up with every spring and fall, well, this last fall with all the rain we had over in the southeast corner in Berlin. Right now, the meter's sitting at about 14.98. Last year, we were up at around 15.8. We didn't have to do any evacuations. I just put eyes on the river. It's actually lower than it was last fall. We've got the snow melt around some of the homes makes it look worse than it is, but the river is actually lower than it was last fall. We're going to end up with one town that's going to be doing a disaster declaration. That'll be the town of Hancock. They've got a culvert, the road washed out on 2nd Avenue in 2 locations. One about a half-mile north of County C. The other one is a half-mile south of County C. The one north of County C is actually the road's going to be shut down because of the culvert's washed out and it's just unsafe to go ahead and open it. They have it posted and the road's going to be closed until the highway department can go ahead and get it back open. The County V, north of 21 up to Cottonville Ave is going to be shut down because of washout up underneath one half of the road. It goes out under approximately 8 foot up underneath the east side of the county road, so that'll be shut down. The county's not going to, are not going to make the threshold to do a county disaster declaration because of the threshold of being it with our census. The highway department estimated somewhere around 60, 70,000 approximately. We would need approximately 95,000 in damage for just county, we can't add in any of the town damage or to our county to do a disaster declaration. So we're going to fall short for doing a county disaster. So the repairs and the road work will be out of the county budget. So, but right now, most cases again, and right now this week we've got a break because of it's a slower melt than we had last week over that 3-day period where we got the heavy rain and then the 60-degree temperatures, which we've had a few homes. We set out to put sandbags at the highway department and open it up, and I sent information out. I think most of you should have got the email, but I also sent it out to all the town and village clerks that sandbags are available at the highway department and that they was accessible, and periodically checking. Folks were taking advantage of getting sandbags and taking them to keep the snow melt from going in the basement or into their, through their doors, so. Any questions? Nope.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add?
I got pictures for later on.
Oh, okay, very good. Next, we have a presentation regarding an episode of Discover Wisconsin featuring Waushara County and Waushara County Tourism Resource Commission and Waushara Area Chamber of Commerce. Dr. Mark Vandecastle will give us a little report on that. He is representing the Waushara Tourism Resource Commission.
Yes, I am Dr. Mark Vandecastle. I'm a chiropractor here in Watoma. I know most of you, and I have had dealings with most of you too. But anyway, I'm also the chairperson for the Waushara County Tourism Commission. And the Tourism Commission was formed in 2006. I don't know how many of you were here when I gave that presentation here back then. Basically what it is it's the room tax commission. And we collect, for every dollar that's collected in Waushara County for room tax, 75% of that money comes to me in my commission, and 25% stays with the local municipality to use for whatever they want. I was just at Mount Morris on last Tuesday, for their presentation, and right in their budget on what they presented that day, they had collected since their last meeting $374 from the room tax commission. So it's working very well as far as getting money to me and to my committee for promotion of Waushara County for tourism, and it's working very well for the local municipality to get money, additional money for their local budget. But the reason that, as Ms. Collada said, the reason I'm here today, though, is to tell you about the Discover Wisconsin contract that we signed last year, and they were here through the summer and through the fall and through the winter, doing footage of Waushara County, and this is coming together a lot faster than we thought it was. Meaning that I was just in Madison 2 weeks ago previewing the film that they took, and they're ready to go. They want to get us up and going and get this episode out there. So they originally had picked April 6th to be the date for our presentation, for our episode of Discover Wisconsin about Waushara County. Unfortunately, it's being moved to April 7th. Because of the Final Four basketball NCAA, so we're being bumped there. We will have that presentation, or that television program will be, as I said, on April 7th. I'm not sure which network carries it out of Green Bay, and I don't know when Madison is going to carry it, but that's the local channel here. It'll be April 7th, and I'll get that information and get it to you. Do you know? Channel 5. Channel 5? Okay, do you know what time? I think it's in the morning, I think, on the 7th, which is kind of a disappointment for me, but... 6:30 on Saturday. Yeah, that's the time it's supposed to be, and then I'll get bumped. I believe it's 10:30 in the morning, but I didn't want to say that because I'm not exactly sure. But it will air again in either October or November. That date has not been set yet, and it'll air again a third time next spring. So we're going to get 3 airings of it, of that television program. Now I need to stress highly that television program is us. It's Waushara County. They were here. They were at the car show in Wild Rose. They were at the fish hatchery in Wild Rose. They were at the Ice Age Trail out on the western side of the county. They were all over the place, and they came up with this fantastic piece to get tourism to come to Waushara County. Like I said, I saw the footage. I'm very impressed with it. But I also have to emphasize that that's a very small portion of what we're getting from Discover Wisconsin. Through their networking and through their social media and all of their other programs that they do, we're getting a huge amount of exposure throughout 7 states where Discover Wisconsin goes. So I'm going to make that point that this television program is the crown jewel of what we're getting, obviously. But there's so much more on the radio and television and computer that we're going to get from them. So I want to make that clear. But they also then want us, Discover Wisconsin wants us to do a premiere party, or a premiere, we want to call it a party, but a premiere showing of that Discover Wisconsin episode. And we're going to do that on March 28th. It's going to be at the Washera County Country Club, and they're going to be there to show Washera County their film before it shows it to the rest of the world, so to speak. So you are all invited to come to that premiere, and we're going to have the Discover Wisconsin people there, and we're going to have a couple other presentations, just real short ones to give everybody the understanding of why tourism is so important for us in Washera County. Then we'll show the program. It's going to be about 19 or 20 minutes, you know, because it's going to be minus all the commercials, so that's the best part about the whole thing. I'm super excited about this. We did this once before in 2005, and I remember back then, I know Mary was very helpful with that, getting all the information out on that back then, and I was making all these claims. This was a once-in-a-lifetime event, but I guess not, because we signed up again because of how successful it was last time. So a lot of your municipalities that you guys represent have the room tax ordinance, and so we've gone to those that are supporting the program, tried to get to them, and get them invited too. So there's a lot of, we're hoping for 100 people there. I don't know how many will show up, but March 28th, Country Club, 5 o'clock. Meet and greet, 5 o'clock. I'll probably start talking 5:30, 5:45, something like that. We hope to show the program at 6 o'clock. Okay. I believe Silvercrest is going to do some light hors d'oeuvre type of thing. Just if you've been to a business after 5 through the Chamber of Commerce, this is going to be very similar to one of those. And the Chamber of Commerce is going to help me with all of that promotion. Okay, so please come and see where the money is being spent, and see this wonderful program, and see us on television. It's phenomenal. They have a drone. I got to say this. When I saw that footage, they have this drone. You know, I've been to Washera County all my life, and they have this one picture of this drone flying over Wild Rose during the car show, and they shoot right down the mill pond. And I just had never seen that picture like that before. It was incredible. Mount Morris, they have a picture of the mill from the drone. You'll see some stuff that's never quite saw Washera County like that before. I'm like I said, I'm very impressed with what they have done for us, and we'll see. All right. So, any questions for me? Yes, Everett.
They were supposed to have some pictures of fishing on Cruza Lake. Are those in there?
They are not in there. I did not see any. The original one that we did in 2005 did have the whole fishery there. This one, no, I don't believe there's any fishing on there from Cruza Lake. I don't believe so. They do show the bikers, I believe. They do show the covered bridge. They don't talk about it like they did last time, but they do have some footage of the, I believe it's the bikers. I know they show the bikers going through Mount Morris for sure, and I think they show some footage of the coverage bridge just in the background. I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember exactly where that was in the film, but you'll see it. So, any other questions for me? Yes, Larry.
How much is this costing the Tourism Council?
It's the total price of the package that we get as a 4-year member, a 3-year member on there is $40,000. We have a 4-year contract with them to pay $10,000 a year out of that. As far as our budget goes, that's about a quarter of our budget per year for the next 4 years to do this episode. They break it down to about a $280,000 package if you were going to go buy all the stuff yourself. So. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Okay, I hope to see you guys on the 28th, and I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for coming, Mark. All right, next we have Land Conservation and Zoning Department Annual Report.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I can't believe another year's come and gone. It seems like it was just last year I did this.
Time flies when you're having fun.
I'm actually very excited because unlike last year's presentation, I can now report on things firsthand. You know, this has been my first complete year, and things have just been phenomenal, unbelievable, actually. Overall, we did see a slight dip in our overall permit numbers from 2017. However, I just want to report that we are still seeing a general trend upward, and this has been occurring ever since 2013, 2014. We saw another successful year in our Land Conservation Division, with several cost share programs coming to fruition. And I know it seems like this is reported many times over when there's a dip in statistical numbers, but last year proved to be another challenging year. We were hit with dips and uncertainties in the economy, and we were hit with one of the wettest falls on record that dramatically affected our construction efforts across the county, and actually across the region. We're now witnessing one of the snowiest winters on record, which is only going to gear up for a very wet spring on top of what we were left with from last year. To this end, our office is now fielding concerns over high water issues on many of our lakes, and we're now getting more and more involved in addressing water quality issues. As you may be aware, Governor Evers declared 2019 the year of clean drinking water. This comes on the heels of concerns raised nationally and locally over the levels of pollutants in the groundwater. I'm going to talk a little bit at the end of my presentation just about the local efforts and what we're doing at this point in time. Sorry. All right. With regard to land use permits, our office issued 438 land use permits for structures in the towns that are currently under county zoning. These included 64 new homes, 96 additions to homes, and 278 accessory structures. Outside of the spike that we witnessed from 2016 to 2017, numbers have somewhat leveled off, but are still overall trending upward since 2013, as you can see on the scales. Good news is that the permits for new homes are up over 20% since 2016 and nearly 10% since last year. General Engineering, our current contracted inspection company, issued a total of 433 permits. These were spread amongst new homes, commercial structures, additions to homes, alterations and decks to homes, electrical installations and upgrades, and miscellaneous permits. Fees collected exceeded $169,000, or a 5% jump over the year before, and assistance for construction site erosion control for these building projects was provided to over 149 landowners. 40 on-site visits were made to help landowners individualize their relative erosion control and re-veg plans, and we also provided consultation for 10 individual plans, with one of those with oversight from a private company. In addition, we issued 200 sanitary permits, authorizing 67 new private on-site wastewater treatment systems and 133 replacement systems or reconnections to existing systems. With regard to our POUT systems, which is our private on-site wastewater treatment system, per administrative rule, the county is required to do a 3-year maintenance program and set that up. Our mandatory septic system, the program is basically split up every 3 years. Basically, we take it and revolve a third of each permits, and that annually. Last year, we sent out over 3,700 notices to Washira County landowners, working with pumpers and landowners to get these systems checked and pumped when necessary. Resulted in a total of 97 citations. I'm glad to report, though, that only 14 of those remain outstanding in court. That represents an overall compliance rate of 99.62%, which is pretty well, especially when we're looking at clean water efforts. You know, the one thing to do is to make sure that our POUT systems are operating normally and not failing and spilling sewage, raw sewage, out onto properties and into nearby waterways. Our office also conducted a number of investigations. Last year, there were 400 code non-compliance inquiries made to our office. 333 reports on file were investigated and brought into compliance, and then 214 non-compliance investigations are still pending. And these reports, by the way, they range from junk vehicles to unoccupied travel trailers, failed septics, shoreline disturbances, and building without permits. I'm getting dizzy. All right. With regard to the non-metallic mining operations, staff worked with 14 non-metallic mining sites involving approximately 203 active acres. Last year, and that annual inspection fees netted the department $3,900. 42 acres were reclaimed in 2018. It's anticipated that right now only a half acre right now is pending certification for reclamation in 2019. When I refer to reclamation, if you look at these pictures from the active pit to that reclaimed, it's when the properties, the slopes are restored to 3-to-1, vegetation has to cover over 70% of the property, and the non-metallic mine becomes inactive. And that's what you see on the right-hand side. That's what the hopes are for all of our non-metallic mines, is that they'll look like this. And then most likely, and that be rezoned as open space land. Okay, working with the Soil Water Resource Management Program, last year we took in $50,000 from state-secured monies, and that was secured for landowners for hard practices, which include stabilized water runoff systems, manure storage facilities, as well as wetland restorations and shoreline erosion stabilization projects. We're also tracking a total of 47,645 acres under nutrient management plans, which equates to 32% of the county's tillable lands. To this end, looking forward to 2019 and 2020, we are now taking a proactive approach, especially given Governor Evers' declaration. We're actually going out now and notifying property owners in high-profile watersheds, that being over on the upper two-thirds of the county, and that would be the Carpenter Creek watershed and the 14-Mile Creek watershed. Per administrative rule, the requirements, we're getting these existing properties under nutrient management. We'll be notifying them. What we'll do when we go out there is we'll rate each project based upon its importance in the system, and then we'll offer cost sharing. So hopefully we can get a lot more projects under nutrient management and hopefully improve the overall water quality. Okay. The Water Quality Improvement Program, supported and financed by Waushara County, allows for $25,000 per year to be used for cost-sharing worthy conservation projects. If you recall, last year we visited this on our county board tour. This is the Tome Farm, located on County Road S and Z out in the town of Mount Morris. And there was a project that had two potentially sensitive qualifying concerns, one being manure runoff and then also excessive runoff from roof drainage. Obviously, and this property is also immediately adjacent to the Willow Creek. So what we did is we rated this, it rated exceptionally high, and then we offered them money and to put in this facility here that you see. Also, what we did with some of our WEQIP money, we also used $4,000 of that for the Waushara County Private Well Water Testing Program. That $4,000 was used for well tests out on the eastern periphery of the county. This year, we've earmarked $10,000 to complete the well testing program on the remaining two-thirds of the county. We're beginning the central portion of the county here in May. We've applied for a grant, which we anticipate that we're going to receive, that will allow us to bump up our schedule. We'll get some additional funding, and we'll also take over the remaining third, or the western third, Central Sands region, and that hopefully done this year as well. That's going to be really important, especially when we start talking about, now you'll see here in a minute, these joint coalition efforts that we're involved in right now with neighboring counties. We'll be able to use our input and data for studies and resources and research that's going to be done on a lot of our systems out there in the status of our waters. Conservation Field Days. Last year, we held the 12th Annual Conservation Field Days Environmental Learning Center event at Camp Lucerne. There were over 209 students from the 5th grade level, public schools in Waushara County, as well as private schools and homeschool children. This has been increasingly funded by donations and is staffed primarily by volunteers, in addition to departmental staff. If you would like to observe this program, spend a day outdoors with the kids, learning about various environmental issues, or be a group leader, please contact our office, and I'll be more than happy to sign you guys up. This year's event is planned for May 2nd and 3rd at Camp Lucerne. Really neat. I got to tell you, real fun educational experience. We have soil testers, certified soil testers that kind of go through the gamut with the kids, talking about soils. We've got DNR that do a catch program where they actually catch some fish, bring up some samples. We've got a lady there, Anna from Golden Sands, from Aquatic Invasive Species, and talks about a whole gamut of things, but it's just very educational. And the kids, you can see it there, they actually do a little hands-on checking the water quality and looking at our lakes and rivers. Okay, we also continue to contract with USDA Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, or APHIS. This is money in, money out. We administer the program, but last year, deer damage payable losses in 2018 provided payment for $20,105 to 8 qualified groups. And there was no other damage claims. However, it should be noted that other damage claims could include turkey, bear, and geese. Everything last year, just primarily deer. Overall, 2018 proved to be a very successful year for us in the county. Despite all the new faces, mine included, we picked up all the loose ends, which is fairly typical of a department undergoing change. We re-emphasized our roles and responsibilities and are back functioning as a well-cohesive team. It is extremely welcoming to see my staff utilizing their individual talents and involved in all aspects of our operations, including all decision-making. I'm proud to serve the county and also be part of a well-experienced, well-seasoned group of people such as this. Our goal remains to this day to continue to provide the high level of service to landowners looking to acquire various lands, zoning, building, sanitary, or manure storage permits, or looking to install recommended conservation practices on their property. We also aim to continue to provide the best general information we can when landowners are looking to develop land, install agricultural practices, or enhance habitat. As I indicated at the beginning of my presentation, 2019 is gearing up to introduce a completely different set of challenges for the county and our office with the declaration of our governor but we are anticipating more monies to be made available, which will hopefully open up some research and studying efforts. We also believe there's going to be some some sweeping reform to hopefully address the ever-growing water quality issues. To this end, I just want to point out a few things that we've been doing here recently. Our offices are either currently involved in or will soon be involved in multi-jurisdictional efforts to examine and review the state of our waters. We are currently, I currently sit on the steering committee, the Watershed Management Technical Team, and the Shoreland Protection Team for the Winnebago Waterways Lake Management Planning Efforts. That's a joint coalition with Fond du Lac, Calumet, Winnebago, and Washera County, and then also the Fox Wolf Water Alliance. But our hopes there are to take a look at over 32 Huck 12s and take a look at all those watersheds, look at all the best management practices that the farmers are doing, and actually coming up with a plan that hopefully we can get landowners and property owners and shore landowners to incorporate into their practices so that we can start improving the quality of our waters. And this is not just surface waters, but also groundwaters. We're also working with the Wisconsin Land and Water Conservation Association. This Friday, we'll be going out to a meeting, myself, Ed Hernandez, and Mary Robel, looking at joining a multi-jurisdictional coalition to look at the Central Sands region. What we're hoping to do is, there's $70 million right now that the governor has earmarked for the state of Wisconsin, and it's towards research and development for programs that all of us can get into to hopefully improve our water quality. What we're hoping is with a larger coalition, we can capture a larger chunk of that money, which would be distributed to the counties, and hopefully we can start getting a handle on what's happening. The phosphates and nitrate levels, and that just in Lafayette, Iowa counties. Washera County, we've got some elevated levels. Kewaunee County, these levels are unprecedented and dangerously high. E. coli and coliform levels are literally at dangerous and if not life-threatening levels. And it's something that we've got to start getting a handle of and start looking at ways that we, and I think we as a county, should be forerunners and out there in the forefront to hopefully attack this thing head on. And that's what our hopes are. And in that part is also with the countywide private well water testing program. We're hoping that with this program, we can ascertain what levels we're at, and we can hopefully use this for future studying purposes. And with that, I just always want to say that if anyone needs anything, I always always maintain an open door policy, please. Come on in, I welcome anybody. I know Mark and Mike and George, you guys readily stop by. please, I welcome anybody, and I'll tell you about our efforts and everything that we're attempting to do. But my goal is to bring us to that next level. I've got a great group of people, and I got to say I'm proud, and I thank you all for the opportunity. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, you have one?
Yeah, Todd, I noticed that in 2018, the number of citations issued jumped dramatically. Is that because there's a lack of compliance with the law, or are you just enforcing it more vigorously?
A little bit of both. We've received a number of complaints, and obviously we don't have a full-time outside staff that goes around. So a lot of our complaints, or a lot of our infractions, or I should say our notices, are complaint driven. But when we go out there and we see this, a lot of times we notice other ones on the way to that person's property or sometimes immediately adjacent. So we are somewhat being a little bit more progressive. It's one thing that we used to do in the past. We used to just give people notice, another notice, another notice, and the infraction would just go on for years. We now give one notice, we give that person ample time to bring it into compliance, and after which it's typically referred to Ruth, or we write them a citation. We've got to clean things up. I know probably a lot of you have driven around the county and experienced a lot of, junk cars, scrap metal, things like that, and it's time to clean it up. And we have codes against it, and we have to enforce it. Anything else?
So, Everett?
Everett.
I know that was, the testing of the wells was scheduled for a 3-year project, and I want to commend you on boosting it up and getting it done in a couple of years. I think we all appreciate that.
Well, thank you. It's once again, Ed has done a tremendous job, and that's one thing that he and I, we almost sit down daily and we talk about it. It's every day I turn on my computer and there's another article about water quality issues. We've got to hit this thing in the forefront. I'm just afraid if we don't, it could be, could be devastating, and that, things that happen. And you hear about this. There was an article that, the last issue of WCA magazine that came out, 3/4 of the publication was all about water quality. It just goes to show the importance, and I think the governor now wants to attack this thing head on. As a matter of fact, Lafayette and Iowa counties just passed a resolution where they're hiring University of Wisconsin Extension Services to establish levels of phosphates and nitrates that can be deposited into the ground. That's going to result in a final result in the groundwater of 10 parts per million. It sounds very far-fetched, but at least we're starting to take some steps there where, we can start doing some research. Kewaunee County was very successful in lowering their levels. Now, they're on fractured bedrock, which is a lot different than the soils we have here, but hopefully we can get down to the bottom of this. Okay?
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Larry?
You've done testing of some wells already. What trends have you found?
We found some areas, it's out in the Pine River area. We found just some isolated pockets, and you really can't draw any conclusions yet. What we're trying to do is right now those results that we've gotten are going to start mapping all the results, and hopefully from there we can see if there's a trend. It might be following a riverbank, a river stream. We don't know at this point in time. We have some ideas, but I don't want to ever speculate, until everything can be analyzed. But we've seen some pockets here and there. We anticipate when we get out to the west, the sandy soils obviously are very porous, and there's a lot of spreading that goes on out there. And also you've got potato fields out there, high nitrate levels. So we don't know what we're going to see when we get out there, but hopefully, that when we get out and start testing that area, we'll be able to get a grip on that. Okay? I thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the Highway Department Annual Report. Commissioner Brian Freimark.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'll try to be a little more, I'm sure mine won't be quite as informative. So basically what we have here is we have a kind of a picture of what we've done for levy and what we've done for revenue. And if you see in 17, we had quite a higher situation in the revenue, and that is because of the bridge that was built in Berlin. But if you look at the overall trend, we're still increasing. And if you see in 14 and 15, you guys, the county board was gracious enough to give us extra $200,000. Now that's, you can see that it's kind of slightly getting taken back a little bit. So that's kind of the trend over the last 5 years of what we've been doing. This here is a map of some of the roads that we worked on last year. So the green is what we paved, like between Wild Rose and Saxville. We also paved 3/4 of a mile down in Richford, and we also did some paving in the for the state on Highway 152, along with paving in the townships of Coloma, Oasis, Deerfield, Watoma, Dakota, Marion, and the village of Plainfield. So we've reached out and gotten a few of them. And there's also seal coating on there, the yellow that you see up in the top center and the bottom center, Springwater and Town of Marion, and then also towards Auroraville there at Four Corners. You can see we did some for Aurora, and we did 22.5 miles of our own. For this coming year, depending on where we end up with winter maintenance, which has been a little bit high here lately, and the flooding, we had anticipated doing C from the county line, that would be on the west end, to where B goes to the south. That's about 9.9 miles. But we have some local road improvement money to help fund some of that. So that happened to be just one little wind-blowing road that we had in the town of Oasis this year. Town of Oasis, their normal guy, that his truck broke down, so we jumped in to give them a hand, and as a matter of fact, we ended up as far as town of Pine Grove up on the other side of Bancroft for 1 or 2 days up there helping them also. So we're trying to reach out and get some extra revenue in to help with that revenue number that you saw on the first slide. And just for you know, not only do we do township stuff on our own, we also do state roads. And of course, the state keeps track of some they're big into the numbers and whatnot all. For the last 3 years, last 3 seasons, not counting this one, we were at third, and then we jumped to second and the lowest per dollar per mile on the lane miles of maintenance at $1,460, and the average is $2,800. We're also third lowest in material cost per lane mile at $605 versus $1,230. In this same 3-year period, we're the 9th lowest and most improved. We've actually come in at $202 a lane mile less than what we were 3 years ago. 4th lowest on our ton per lane mile at 7.22 ton, and the average is 16.35. We're 6th lowest on our labor costs per lane mile at $413, and the average is $694. And we are the number 1 lowest on equipment rates per lane mile at $422 versus $842. So you can look at that a couple of different ways. Some people look at it and say, well, you're not putting enough stuff on the ground. And we've taken a little bit of a different philosophy on some of that. A lot of times, depending on what the weather conditions are, you add salt, you make more ice, because it doesn't always cut it. A lot of times you'll get refreeze. You'll end up having the guys out longer periods of time at night. Our interstate was a perfect example. About 4 different times there was ice 1 inch thick on either side of us, and we were bare roads. So it's a philosophy that we are trying to train our guys with, so they understand exactly what we're looking for when we do that. So this is just when I started here 4 years ago, the committee at the time wanted us to target getting more revenues. And one way of doing that is to increase the work that we do for townships. And at the time, we were doing the town of Watoma, plowing it, and then we do quite a bit of their summer work also. And the summer work is what really gives us a hand. Seems to be the trend around here lately is the mom and pop businesses that did plowing in the past are getting out. There's you have a year like we did the last 3 where it's not so bad, you don't make any money because the truck sits. You get a year like this, you can't find help. Most of the guys, if they're gonna work a 12-hour shift during 1 week when they're laid off, that 12 hours takes away their unemployment from them, and then they get less money working at 12 hours than they do if they were laid off for a whole week. So a lot of guys won't answer the phone. So what's happening is that as we see this, Town of Springwater had a very hard time finding somebody. They ended up finding somebody to work part-time for them in the summer, and he does some of the stuff that we just don't have time to do. But they do a good fair amount of work with us, and we added 52 miles. I'd like to back up for just a second. Town of Watoma, when we took that one over in 13 on 41 miles, and there's quite a few cul-de-sacs and some subdivisions in that township, we added 2 employees. Town of Springwater, we added 1 employee, and that added 52 miles to our system. And the town of Bloomfield added another 44 miles. They were in a situation last year where they just didn't have anybody, they didn't have anybody else to turn to. We're looking at 2020, the town of Coloma wants to join in. We've had requests from Deerfield Oasis, and we have a hunch that Rose is going to be coming knocking on the door. Point I'm trying to make is we're increasing. Currently, our county beats are 30 to 35 miles long. They're a little bit more open roads. There's not so many curves and tight radiuses and cul-de-sacs and subdivision and stuff like that where you end up spending a lot more time. So we just can't add 1 person per township if we're gonna keep this trend up. That's what I'm trying to make. Right now, with Springwater and Bloomfield, anybody that's got a county beat, when they get their beat fairly done, they step in and they start helping in these other 2 townships. And what we're seeing from a 4.5 hour time range to 7 hours to do a beat, we're seeing it jump to 6.5 to 12 hours, depending on the snow. So it's starting to bite into our, what we have for manpower. So, because we are an enterprise system and we're set up through the state, through statutes, that's how my job is set up. Statewide, every piece of equipment that we have has a certain dollar amount that it's worth, and if you can work that piece of machinery to exceed the expenses that you have on that machinery, that's the only way that the highway department is allowed to make a profit. Everything else is time and materials. So a forklift pays the same in Ashland County as it does in Washera County as it does in Dane or Milwaukee County. So what you need to do is you need to control your cost, and you need to be able to increase your hours on your equipment in order to perform this revenue to expense. What ends up happening over time, though, is if your machinery doesn't make you that much money when it's when it's still being depreciated out, which is usually about a 10-year cycle. It starts making you money after that, but you got to be able to know when you got to sever and move on. You can see that we increased quite a bit for a number of years. Last year we backed way off, and part of that is part of it is because we bought more equipment, so we're seeing our depreciation rise. Part of it is insurance costs going up. Some of it has got to do with our shop overhead. We didn't do as much work. We did more work in our stuff than what we did on some of the other clients that we have that we work for. So it's a trend. You'll see it kind of stick right around there, hopefully, depending on how much we increase if we do decide to move on and start helping more of these townships out that are asking us for help. So some of the equipment that we bought this year, that's a line striper, that's paint center line. It does about 32,000 gallons of paint a year, gets sprayed on the ground, 560 some miles just on state roads. In Marquette, Green Lake, Washera, partly into Wapaka County, partly into Portage a little bit, depending on the road. That truck is the most expensive item that we have in our complete fleet. That truck was $435,000. And when you divide that out on a 10-year per month, it's a pretty expensive piece of machinery that's parked right now because we can't spray on it. We can't spray when it's snow on the ground. It is a truck that when we set it up, it's actually has the spot right behind the cab. You put totes in there, you stir them up before the day starts out, and they can go almost all day on 2 totes instead of the last truck we had. About every 45 minutes, there was a 20-minute reload time. This truck they reload one time during the day, and it takes them about a half an hour. So we save some time doing that. Sitting in that cab is like sitting in a space shuttle. He's got cameras and monitors, and he has a rolling average as he's driving along. He knows exactly how many pounds of beads he's putting down per lane mile, and he knows exactly how many pounds, or how many gallons of paint he's putting down per lane mile, and it updates every 400 feet. So it's constantly giving him real-time data. It's a really cool truck, but kind of spendy. We had, as we're picking up these townships, we're running out of snow trucks. This is a brand new truck that we got. We ordered it in February. We took delivery of it 1 year later. Prices were very, very favorable. They were actually $10,000 cheaper than what we had paid a couple years before for trucks. And we had budgeted 1 for 18, we had budgeted 2 for 19, so we worked out a deal that both vendors, the body vendor, the chassis vendor, and the hydraulics box and plow equipment, they extended that same deal for this coming year. Them 2 trucks were ordered at the same time this one was. We got them. They're down in Madison being built, so hopefully we get them before this coming snow season. By the way, that's $168,000. That's a 5-yarder. If anybody's familiar with some of the tractors that we have, they're from some of them are from 1990, 1995, so they generate fairly good revenue. They were open cabs. We had 2 of them that were from 1990. One of them was to a point there was 2 forward gears and 1 reverse gear left in it. It was just used up. So those 2 tractors, we bought them. They are actually 500-hour rental units that were down in Dane County, and we got them with full factory warranty on them, full emission warranty on them, and we got them for about $35,000 less than new. So as we're short trucks for plowing, Jackson County had a couple of trucks for sale, so we went and picked these up real quick. They were both used this year. We've had some problems with both of them, but they are 2001 units, but we can't afford, at $268,000 a piece, we can't afford to be buying, as we're increasing our workload, we can't afford to be buying new stuff and being able to keep it fluid, our operation fluid. So if they don't work, or when we get to a point that we have trucks that we don't need these to, we will be turning around and reselling them. This was just a little whim on an auction, online auction one day. It was like $3,500. It's an 8-foot paver. We actually put it to use on Highway 82 in Adams County. We did some paving down there for them, and it is, the Lions Club is building a small walking trail up in Plainfield, and it'll be used to put down a gravel base for the walking trail on that, with that. This coming, whenever it dries up enough, we can get out there. And then, depending on what we have for use for it, that'll turn around and get sold to again. Typically what we used in the past, we used mid-mount mowers on the sides and a rear flail type mower. We switched to these. Part of the reason being is if you were to put a new plow, or a new side mount and rear mount on one of them two tractors right there, you're about $75,000. I bought this used for $10,500. So we're trying to do more with less. Oop. So here's flooding. I will sidebar that these pictures of this flooding are all taken by Norm. Him and I rode around, did some damage assessment on Friday, so he is the photographer. This is County Trunk V. If you can see in the background behind the trees on the left side, that's Coloma Farms, so that's where 21 is. So this is just to the north of Cottonville. At one point in time, one of the guys could actually take a shovel and push down in there and never hit the bottom when the water was really running hard. You can see the wave in the white line. Since the sun, this was on Friday, the sun came out Saturday. Any place where it was undermined, the asphalt actually caved in. So, funny story about this one. The guys are out there today sawing it, and we have barricades going from snowbank to snowbank, up through the ditch and over the road. And a guy drove down there, drove through the ditch on the other side of the road, screamed at my guys because they were in the middle, they had their truck parked in the middle of the road because that's where they were working. And screamed at them guys, drove ahead, and told the guy in a dark blue Suburban that them guys had no reason to be on that road and that he should do something about it. And he said, well, as soon as I get done writing you a ticket, I'll go and tell them thanks for stopping you. So, we're having a big issue with people driving around barricades. They don't believe us when we tell them that the road is closed for a reason. This was on County Trunk B, just north of V. So just northeast of Coloma or Hancock. There was at one point in time icebergs floating through here. This is County Trunk A in 12th Court. If you can see where the sign is down there. So there's about 4 feet or 5 feet of water in there. I will tell you that where the person taking the picture where he was standing, not 3 weeks before that with the windstorm, there was over 12 feet of snow on that road. We could not get through it with the Oshkosh. I could not get through it with the grader. We ended up going up there with an end loader and pushing it out so we could get through there and get the road open up. There again, there's this one was on County Trunk Y by B. Here again, people wouldn't slow down, and there was some damage done to the house because people were going through there making a big wake, and we ended up barricading it off until the water receded. So the only one that we have left, and there was a couple other ones throughout the day, you know, it changed as the day went on. The spots where we were having water issues changed, and when the sun came out about 1 o'clock, it really came out. So it was a pretty exciting event. I will tell you that my guys are very tired. They haven't had a weekend off in I think about 5 weekends. Everybody's getting tired. And about after the last snowstorm where we had about 12 inches, most taxpayers were sick of us being out there even though we didn't put the snow or the water there. That's a 1936 Caterpillar. That's the first year that Caterpillar put a diesel engine in an integrator, if anybody cares.
Do you have questions for Brian?
Yes, Larry.
I just want to comment that I've heard nothing but good compliments on the work you're doing in the town of Bloomfield.
Thank you. We try to do that with every township that we have.
A couple of years ago, where we hired the county to do spring water, I was getting at least a couple dozen calls in winter. Problems being plowed in and mailboxes taken down. And even this winter, as bad as it was, the only calls I got was thanking me for the trucks out there and the good job they were doing.
Don't get sticker shock when you get your bill for this month.
Any other questions for Brian? Thank the fellows for us. I think they're doing a great job. We really appreciate it.
They've been told that repeatedly, that you guys are happy with the work that they're doing and you're sticking behind it.
Thank you. All right, next we have consideration possible action on the following resolutions and ordinance. Resolution number 05-03-19, a resolution authorizing transfer of funds from the unassigned fund balance of the general fund to the Emergency Medical Services Special Revenue Fund.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Weddy to approve, second by Supervisor Lauer. Do you have any questions or comments concerning this? All right, this will require a roll call vote.
Mr. Cap?
Yes.
Mr. Eckstein? Mr. Weddy?
Yes.
Mrs. Colada?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Piaski?
Yes.
Mr. Tim?
Yes.
Thank you. Next, we have resolution number 06-03-19, a resolution ordering the issuance of tax deeds on certain tax foreclosed property.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Supervisor Weddy, second by Supervisor Eckstein. Do you have any questions or comments? Ruth, does the one in Pine River, is that the one that's next to the library? Is it? Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks. All right, hearing or seeing no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next, we have resolution number 07-03-19, a resolution authorizing fund balance restrictions, commitments, assigns, and reappropriation of special funds from 2018 to 2019. Motion by Supervisor Eckstein to approve,
I'll second.
second by Supervisor Weddy. Any questions? George?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I understand what I'm reading here, because there's a lot of numbers and
Yes,
everything.
there is.
So basically, these are balances that are remaining in a fund that are unspent, that,
Sarah, do you
Yeah.
want to come up and?
okay, that are now being carried over, but these fund balances have limits.
Correct, so they are funds that are remaining. Some are what we have as committed, so they are committed towards, like, for example, we have a buildings and grounds contingency fund. That money can be used, in an emergency if, like, your hot water heater goes out or something like that. Then we also have your, assigned fund, which is more of your donations. So anything that was remaining at the end of 2018 was rolled into these committed funds for departments to use in next coming years.
Okay. And so, but there's limits, caps on the top end of these funds, or, no, okay.
And then, just to point out while we're going over this, with the, resolution you just passed to transfer the 85,000 from the general fund, that's going to drop your figure on here, on the second page where it says unassigned fund balance. You're currently at 7,933,861.70. That's gonna drop to 7,848,861.70. It's gonna decrease by 85,000.
All right, thank you.
I have a question. I have no idea what Tri-County Food and Retail is.
That's their food program.
That's the licensing program, like we
Oh,
charge
okay.
a fee to license the restaurants
All
and
right,
the
okay,
inspections,
got it.
that's that program.
Okay, thank you. All right. We had a motion and a second. Are there any more questions? This will also be a roll call vote.
Mr. Eckstein?
Aye.
Mr. Weddy?
Yes.
Mrs. Colada?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Piaski?
Yes.
Mr. Tim?
Yes.
Mr. Cap?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next, we have resolution number 08-03-19, a resolution designating the week of April 8th through April 12th, 2019 as Work Zone Awareness Week in Waushara County. Motion by Supervisor Kirschner, second by Supervisor Eckstein. Do you have any questions concerning this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next, we have ordinance number 635, an ordinance amending Waushara County Code numbers 18 and 58. Motion by Supervisor Peterman, second by Supervisor Cap. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And now we have an appointment to the Human Services Board, James Jarvis, Watoma. And his term will be April 2019 through March 2022. And Linda Mansky, Pine River, term April 2019 through March 2022.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Supervisor Ritter, second by Supervisor King. Any questions?
I just might add that both of these people have served on the Human Service Board for a time, especially Linda Mansky. I think she has been on the board since the county was a county.
Okay.
It's been a while, and they're both doing a really good job.
Thank you. Next, we have board suggestions for future agenda. Yes, Ruth.
We have to vote.
Oh, didn't we vote?
No.
Oh. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Ruth. Next, we have board suggestions for future agenda items, and please note the time and date. Our next meeting is April 5th at 1:45. That will be the same day as our government days here at the courthouse. And so we will meet on April 5th and then again on the 22nd, I believe, isn't it? Okay. Larry?
I believe you asked before whether the lot next to the Pine River Library was included in the tax foreclosed deeds. It's not in there.
It's not. That's not it?
It's not in the list. The parcel in the town of Leon is in the Rasmussen subdivision, which is some distance from the village.
Okay, thank you, Larry, I appreciate that. I would like to take this time to thank you again. Last month, you voted to bring Ken Williams back, and even though the University of Wisconsin might not think we need an agriculture agent, we do, and his first informational meeting, he had 22 farmers attend, so apparently someone else thinks we need one too. So I want to thank you again for bringing him back. Yes, Everett. Motion to adjourn, do we have a second? We got a lot of seconds, we're adjourned. Thank you very much. She said she was working on that one, I don't know. The super is working on it.